Do you remember your first English class? I do. I will never forget it. That day is still clear in my mind, like a photo I keep in my heart. I remember the smell of the classroom. I remember the chair I sat on. I remember how fast my heart was beating. I was scared, confused, and unsure. But I was also hopeful. I was beginning something new, something that would change my life. I didn't know it then, but learning English would open so many doors for me. It would help me meet people, find work, and express myself in a new way. That first day was not easy. In fact, it was very hard. But it was also beautiful. It was the first step. And the first step is always important, no matter how small. That's why I want to share this story with you. Because maybe, you are just starting too. Maybe today is your first day in an English class. Maybe you are feeling nervous, just like I did. You sit in your chair, looking at the teacher, not understanding much. You hear other students speak, and you think, wow, they are so good. I'm not like them. Maybe your hands are shaking a little. Maybe your face feels hot when someone asks you a question. I understand. I really, truly do. And it's okay to feel this way. You are not weak. You are not slow. You are human. We all start somewhere, and starting is often the hardest part. But also the most brave. I want you to know this, you are not alone. I was afraid too. And I made many mistakes. But I kept going. And so can you. You are here, listening to this story, and that already means something big. It means you care. It means you want to grow. And that's enough for today. It all started about 5 years ago. I had just moved to a new country. Everything felt different. The people, the buildings, the weather, even the way people smiled, it was all unfamiliar to me. I missed my home. I missed my language. I missed understanding things. One day, I found a small flyer in the community center. It said, "Free English class, beginners welcome." I stared at it for a long time. My heart wanted to go, but my fear said no. Still, I took the flyer. I put it in my bag and thought, maybe next week. But the truth is, no week ever feels perfect. You just have to choose one and go. So I picked a day. A cold Monday morning. I woke up early, got dressed, and packed a notebook and pen. I didn't know what to expect. I was so nervous. But I went. I showed up. That Monday morning, the air was cold and the sky was gray. I walked slowly to the classroom. I didn't know anyone. My notebook felt heavy in my hands. Or maybe my hands were just shaking. When I reached the door, I paused. I looked through the small glass window. I saw a few people already sitting inside. Some looked relaxed. Others looked serious. I felt like an outsider. But I took a deep breath and opened the door. The room was small but bright. There were windows on one side, and sunlight was trying to come through. The chairs were in a circle, not in rows. That surprised me. It felt more like a group meeting than a school class. I found an empty chair and sat down. I tried to make myself small, quiet, invisible. But my heart was loud. It was saying, "What are you doing here?" Still, I stayed. As I sat in my chair, I looked around the room. There were about 12 people there. Young, old, men, women, from many different countries. One woman wore a bright red scarf. One man had a long beard and kind eyes. I wondered about their stories. Why were they learning English? Were they as scared as me? Or were they already good? I didn't know. I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to make a mistake. My body felt stiff. My mouth felt dry. I just sat there, holding my pen tightly, as if it could protect me. No one spoke to me, but that was okay. I didn't know what I would say anyway. We were all waiting for the teacher. Waiting, and thinking. I remember that feeling so clearly. It was quiet, but inside, it was loud. My mind was full of questions and fears. But I stayed in my seat. That was the first brave thing I did that day. The fear inside me was strong. It wasn't just about speaking English. It was something deeper. I was afraid of looking stupid. I was afraid of people laughing. I was afraid that I was too old, too slow, or not smart enough. I looked at the others and thought, they all know more than me. I started comparing myself before I even began. That's the thing about fear, it tells you lies. It says, you can't. But I was there, sitting in that chair, notebook open. That meant something. Even if I was scared, I showed up. And sometimes, showing up is the hardest and most important part. I wanted to speak. I really did. I had so many words inside me. But they were not in English. They were stuck. And that made me feel small, like a child. But deep inside, I knew one thing, I didn't want to stay silent forever. I kept looking at the door. Maybe I could just walk out and no one would notice. I thought, this was a bad idea. I'm not ready. I can't do this. My fingers tapped the notebook. My eyes looked down. I didn't want to make eye contact with anyone. The voice in my head was loud. It said, run. You don't belong here. But another voice, a quieter one, whispered, just stay. Just 1 hour. You can go after that. That small voice gave me strength. I told myself, okay. Just one class. Then we'll see. I didn't know it then, but that moment, the choice to stay, was a turning point. It didn't feel strong. It didn't feel brave. But it was. Because sometimes courage doesn't shout. Sometimes it whispers, try again tomorrow. Then, the teacher walked in. She smiled as she entered the room. She had kind eyes and a soft voice. She looked at all of us and said, welcome, everyone. That one word, welcome, felt like a warm blanket. I understood it. It was the first word of English that entered my heart, not just my ears. She wrote her name on the board, Ms. Rose. A simple name. Easy to remember. She didn't rush. She didn't speak too fast. She said, I know you are nervous. That's okay. You are safe here. That sentence made me want to cry. Safe. Yes. That was what I needed. A safe place to try. A safe place to be wrong. A safe place to begin. She didn't look at us with judgment. She looked at us with belief. Like she already knew we could do it, even if we didn't believe it yet. Ms. Rose pointed to a poster on the wall. It said, mistakes are how we learn. I read it again and again. I had never seen that sentence before, but I understood it. And more than that, I felt it. I had been afraid of mistakes my whole life. But here, in this small classroom, on this cold morning, mistakes were not bad. They were part of the journey, the chairs, the whiteboard, the people, everything felt new. But I started to relax, just a little. I opened my notebook. I wrote her name, Ms. Rose. I looked at the other posters, colors, greetings, days of the week. They were simple, but they were beautiful to me. I wasn't just in a room. I was in a new beginning. And for the first time that morning, I thought, maybe I can do this. Then, Ms. Rose asked us to say our names. One by one, each person spoke. My name is Ahmed. My name is Maria. My name is Lee. I listened carefully. Some voices were strong. Some were quiet. Then it was my turn. My chest felt tight. My tongue felt heavy. But I took a deep breath and said, "My name is," and then my name. That was it. Just one sentence. But it was a big moment. I had spoken English in front of people. And nothing bad happened. No one laughed. No one looked angry. Ms. Rose smiled and said, "Nice to meet you." I smiled back. My heart was still fast, but now it was beating with pride, not fear. That small sentence, "My name is," felt like a door. A door that I had opened. And I knew, this was just the beginning. After we said our names, the teacher asked us to talk to each other. She said, "Ask your partner, 'What's your name?' and say, 'Nice to meet you.'" It was a small activity, but it felt big to me. I looked around the room. Who would be my partner? I saw a young man sitting next to me. He smiled a little and said, "Hello." I smiled back. "Hello," I said. Then I asked, "What's your name?" My voice was quiet, but the words came out. He answered, "My name is Daniel." "And you?" "My name is Sarah," I replied. "Nice to meet you." He said the same. That was it. A small conversation. Just a few words. But it made me feel a little stronger. We were all trying. Some students forgot the words. Some mixed them up. Some used their hands to help explain. And that was okay. We were learning together. That day, I learned that I wasn't alone in this. Everyone in the room had fear. But they also had hope. This classroom was not like the ones I knew back home. There were no tests on the table. No one was shouting or rushing. Ms. Rose didn't just teach with a book, she taught with her eyes, her hands, her heart. When someone made a mistake, she didn't get angry. She just smiled and helped them try again. She said, "Mistakes mean you are trying. And trying means you are learning." I had never heard a teacher say that before. In my old school, mistakes were bad. You were punished or laughed at. But here, mistakes were normal. They were even welcomed. The classroom was also full of color, posters on the wall, small flags from many countries, and a board with kind words like, "Brave, strong, learner." It didn't feel like a cold school. It felt like a warm home. A place where we were allowed to be beginners. And that was something I really needed. Ms. Rose told us we would listen to a short conversation. She played a recording. 2 voices. A man and a woman. "Hello." "Hi. What's your name?" "My name is Alex." "Nice to meet you, Alex." It was short and simple, but I had to listen carefully. I didn't catch every word. But I heard the rhythm. The friendly tone. The way the voices went up and down. Then she played it again, and we followed along with the printed paper. I wrote the sentences slowly in my notebook. I tried to say the words out loud, but my tongue felt heavy. Still, I said them. "What's your name?" I whispered to myself again and again. Ms. Rose then asked 2 students to try the dialogue together. My heart started beating fast again. What if she picks me? I thought. But she didn't, not this time. I felt both relief and disappointment. I wanted to try, but I was still afraid. Even so, I kept practicing quietly in my seat. During the break, something nice happened. Daniel, the student I spoke with earlier, turned to me and said, "You're doing good." I looked at him and smiled, a little shy. "Thank you," I said. My voice was still soft, but it felt stronger than before. Another student, a woman named Amina, asked, "How do you say?" "I don't understand." I didn't know either, but we asked Ms. Rose together. She smiled and wrote it on the board. "I don't understand." We repeated it several times. Amina and I said it together, and we both laughed. Now we know what to say when we don't know, she joked. And that's when I realized something important: we were not just students. We were teammates. We were building something together. Word by word. Step by step. That made me feel less alone. I had walked in feeling like a stranger. But now, I was part of something. Later, we had another activity. This time, we had to stand up, one by one, and say one sentence about ourselves. I felt the fear coming back. My stomach turned. My hands felt cold. Ms. Rose said, "Just one sentence." "Any sentence." "About you." One student said, "I have 2 brothers." Another said, "I like coffee." Then it was my turn. I stood up slowly. My knees felt weak. I took a deep breath and said, "I like music." That was all. Just 3 words. But it felt like a mountain. Ms. Rose nodded. "Great sentence, Sarah." A few students clapped softly. And I sat down. My heart was still racing, but now I felt proud. I had spoken in front of others. And I didn't make a mistake. Even if I had, it would have been okay. That one small sentence made me feel powerful. I started to believe, just a little, that I could do this. Every little thing that day felt big. Writing down a word. Understanding a sentence. Saying something out loud. These were not small things to me. They were victories. In my country, I always felt confident. I knew how to speak. I knew what to say. But here, I had to learn again, like a child. And that can feel hard. But it also feels fresh. Every new word was like finding a small piece of light. I wrote "music" in my notebook and drew a little note beside it. I wrote "hello" and "thank you" and "I like." I was building my English. Slowly, but truly. I knew I would forget some words later. I knew I would make mistakes again. But I also knew I had started. And starting is a kind of magic. Because once you start, you can grow. Even on the hard days. Then came the funny part of the day. We were learning words for feelings: happy, tired, hungry, sad. Ms. Rose asked us to make a sentence. I wanted to say, "I am hungry," because I really was. It was close to lunch. But instead, I said, "I am angry." Everyone looked surprised for a moment. Then one student started to laugh. Another joined. I looked confused, then Ms. Rose said kindly, "Do you mean hungry?" I covered my face and laughed too. "Yes, hungry. I am hungry, not angry." Everyone laughed with me, not at me. It felt good. It felt human. It was a mistake, yes. But it was also a moment of connection. We were all learning. We were all making funny mistakes. That day, I learned something important: mistakes can make us smile. And they help us remember. I will never forget the difference between angry and hungry now. After that mistake, I felt lighter. Other students started sharing their funny moments too. One man said he once told a cashier, "I'm 30, when he meant, "I'm thirsty." Another woman said she asked for soap at a restaurant instead of soup. We all laughed and shared stories. It became clear, I was not alone in my fear, and I was not alone in my mistakes. That made me feel safe. Even the students who spoke more confidently still made errors. And Ms. Rose never made us feel bad. She always said, "Good try," or "That's a common mistake." That helped us feel comfortable. I realized that mistakes are not something to hide from. They are something to share, to learn from, to grow with. That changed everything for me. I didn't feel so nervous anymore. I still didn't know many words, but now, I knew something more important: that I belonged. Before class ended, Ms. Rose gave us one final task. "Tell me something you like, she said. One full sentence. I thought for a moment. Then I raised my hand. She smiled and said, "Go ahead, Sarah." I said, clearly and calmly, "I like to listen to music when I feel sad." It was a full sentence. No one helped me. No one corrected me. I said it all by myself. Ms. Rose looked at me and said, "That's a beautiful sentence." And she wrote it on the board. I felt something warm rise in my chest. I had done it. I had made a full thought in English. And it felt good. Not perfect, not easy, but good. I looked at my notebook and smiled. I had started the day afraid to say my name. Now, I had shared a piece of my heart in another language. That is not a small thing. That is a brave thing. As class ended, we all stood up and began to pack our things. People smiled at each other. Some said, "Goodbye," or "See you next time." I was quiet, but I was smiling too. I looked at my notebook. It was no longer blank. It had words, drawings, even a funny mistake. But more than that, I had something new inside me. A small voice that said, "You can do this." The fear was still there, I won't lie. But now, it had company. It was standing next to courage. I walked out of the room slowly. The hallway felt brighter. The air felt lighter. And I felt taller, somehow. Not because I had learned everything. But because I had tried. And I had stayed. That was enough. That was everything. After class, as I walked out of the room, Daniel caught up with me. He smiled and said, "You did well today." Just 4 simple words, but they touched my heart deeply. I didn't know Daniel well. We had only said a few sentences to each other. But his words felt real. They felt kind. I looked at him and said, "Thank you." My voice was still soft, but it was steady. And I meant that thank you, not just for his words, but for his presence. Sometimes, just knowing someone sees your effort is enough. I didn't need a big speech. I didn't need a certificate. I just needed someone to say, "I see you. You're doing okay." Daniel didn't know how nervous I had been. He didn't know how much I had wanted to run away before class started. But in that moment, his words made me feel seen. And sometimes, feeling seen is more important than feeling perfect. The walk home felt different that day. The street was still the same. The wind was still cold. Cars passed by, people walked their dogs, and shops were closing for lunch. But I felt different. I walked slowly, not because I was tired, but because I was thinking. My head was full, not just of English words, but of emotions. Pride. Relief. Surprise. And, something else. Something quiet but powerful. Maybe it was hope. I thought about the sentence I had said, "I like to listen to music when I feel sad." That sentence had come from a deep place. And now, I had shared it, in another language. I didn't feel like a stranger anymore. I felt like a student. A learner. A human being who was trying. And that was enough. I didn't have to be fluent. I didn't have to be fast. I just had to keep going. The next morning, I woke up early. I looked at my notebook again. I smiled. I had a new plan, not just to go to class again, but to learn a little every day. Even if it was just one word. One sentence. I put my notebook into my bag. I didn't want to leave it behind. Because now, it felt like a part of me. Like a new friend I was just beginning to know. That first class didn't make me fluent. It didn't erase all my fear. But it gave me something stronger than grammar. It gave me momentum. It gave me belief. And belief, I think, is the real beginning. That day wasn't the end of something. It was the start. Of a new version of me. One who tries. One who learns. One who isn't afraid to begin again. Now, when I think back to that day, I feel many things. I feel proud. I feel a little sad for how scared I was. I feel thankful. Because even though I wanted to run away, I stayed. I didn't walk out. I didn't give up. I showed up. And that one decision made all the difference. I sometimes wonder, what if I had left? What if I had never gone back? My life would be so different now. I wouldn't be able to speak like this. I wouldn't have met the people I met. I wouldn't have known what I could do. But I did stay. And because I stayed, I grew. It wasn't fast. It wasn't easy. But it was real. And real learning, real change, always takes time. Now, I use English almost every day. At work, at the store, with friends, even online. I still make mistakes. I still forget words. Sometimes I say something silly. But you know what? I don't feel embarrassed anymore. Because I understand now, mistakes are part of speaking. Even native speakers make them. I've learned how to laugh at my mistakes and learn from them. And I've also learned how to help others. When I see someone new in class, someone who looks nervous, I smile at them. Just like Ms. Rose smiled at me. And sometimes, I say what Daniel said to me that day. You did well today. Because I know how much that can mean. And I want to pass that feeling on. That kindness. That hope. That belief. When I remember my first English class, I don't remember perfect grammar. I don't remember long conversations or difficult words. I remember feelings. I remember fear, and then, courage. I remember silence, and then, a voice. I remember being lost, and then, being seen. That first day wasn't smooth. It wasn't easy. But it was powerful. Because it was the beginning of everything. It was the day I stopped waiting and started learning. The day I opened a new door. The day I found my voice. If you're just starting, maybe your first day will feel the same. Maybe not perfect. But real. And real is more than enough. If you are just starting your English journey, I see you. If your heart beats fast when someone asks you a question, I understand. If you make mistakes and feel embarrassed, I've been there. And if you want to give up, I get it. But please don't. Because something amazing happens when you keep going. You grow. You change. You begin to believe in yourself. Not all at once. But slowly. Quietly. Strongly. If you are afraid, that's okay. Fear doesn't mean you're weak. Fear means you care. And caring is the first step to courage. So keep showing up. Keep trying. Even if you whisper. Even if you stumble. You are doing something brave. I was afraid too. But I'm here now, and so are you. That means something. It means you are ready. It means you have already begun. And beginnings are powerful. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fast. You just need to be present. To try. To speak. To stay. And one day, you will look back, just like I am now. And you will smile. Because you'll remember that first step. The one you're taking right now. And you'll know, it was worth it. So, thank you for listening to my story. And remember. You are not alone. You are learning. You are enough.